Hello everyone. So I was thinking about something very important working with AI, and I'm pretty sure everyone building with AI, either generating code, writing content, doing research, like any kind of workflow that you have with AI is experiencing the same thing. And it's this tension between building stuff, like getting things done, and not understanding what you're actually building. And this tension is real. I have it all the time. So personally, I experience this, like, for example, coding. I want to ship a feature, or I want to code a feature, like something. And I just don't know how to do it from my own mind. So of course I prompt AI and I tell him, like, hey, I want to achieve this. How can I do that? And it solves it, and I probably understand 20% of the code, right? For things that I don't understand, but it still works, right? And it kind of works the same way for research, for other areas. And this is not good for the long term. So here's the paradox, and we can use an analogy of physics because this is just the way I understand it. You have kinetic and potential energy. In case you don't know what it is, you can simply put it in simple terms, and it's if you have kinetic energy, if it increases, then potential energy will decrease. So, for example, you have the typical system of ball falling down. So the ball right here has a lot of potential energy, and when it moves down, the potential energy decreases and the kinetic energy increases because they stay in a balance. Okay. This is not a physics class, but this is the analogy. So you see, we can think of this flow, this cycle with AI as this kinetic and potential energy, because you can build, you can create more stuff, but you don't understand it. So the kinetic energy increases. Yeah, you're doing a lot of stuff, but the potential energy, which is understanding what you're doing, decreases. However, if now you're learning, understanding what you're doing, then you decrease your output because you're not producing the same thing. So this is the same thing that happens with kinetic and potential energy, but when working with AI. So what do we do then, right? Because now we are addicted to this drug of productivity where we can just create a lot of stuff, but we're increasing the rate of black spots, of not understanding what's going on. However, there's an exception to the rule. Well, not necessarily an exception. They stay in balance if you want to be more precise about the physics thing of this, but it's just for this matter, okay? So there's a difference. There's a scenario where you can increase both quantities at the same time. So let's just put an example of a rocket. If you're lifting a rocket, you're increasing the kinetic energy because the rocket is moving upwards, and increasing the potential energy because it's moving upwards, so it has more gravitational energy. Not gravitational energy, but like more potential energy, okay? So you're increasing both quantities at the same time. Can we do the same with this? I think we can, but you need to apply external energy into this system, okay? So with the analogy of the rocket, then we need to apply thrust to our AI workflow, which requires more energy, yes, but how are we gonna do it? This is how I do it personally. It's not like it's a solved problem, but this is how I do it. And is having two different mindsets. I have the mindset of doing and the mindset of learning, okay? They're always constant. But the difference is that if I'm building something, let's say I'm coding a feature or I'm doing research or something, I have this self-awareness all the time of identifying the knowledge gaps, the things that I don't understand. Like, I have to be true to myself. I have to be honest and say, I don't understand this, so let me just write it down separately, and then I will review it individually later. So I would just do that. Okay, like I keep doing what I'm doing, achieving the outcome, but writing down the things that I don't understand. Why I don't do the same at the same time, and this is what most people think or do, and it's because it's context switching, right? The mindset, the mental resources I use, or I pretty much everyone uses for a specific task, like getting something done and learning, are different. So it's context switching. People have used this by just scrolling down and having context switching from coding and then watching random videos all the time. So this context switching is very expensive, cognitively expensive, and you don't want to be in that position. So you have that for when you switch your mindset, your mind, context, consciously. So you write it down what you don't understand, and then you review it later. The thing is that you're always aware of this process. So this is the way I improve my workflow, to be honest, because I don't feel like I'm making progress when I don't understand stuff. Like all this vibe coding bullshit and all of that is just an excuse for not taking the time to learn the fundamentals, to learn stuff and actually be proficient in your craft and whatever you're doing. Because the minute we remove AI from your workload, you're cooked. You're useless, right? So you're dependent on the machine. I mean, we're all dependent on the machine. We just want to make it less over time, okay? But this is the workflow, because otherwise you'll be blindly following it. So the key takeaway right here is this. You need to learn what you're doing, okay? You don't want to be to work with the black box, regardless of what you're doing. AI is here to stay. AI is now a fundamental part of anybody's workflow. Yeah, that's true, but you still need to form your long-term memory with those skills, because otherwise you are not different with AI. So here's the thing. Another thing that I want to say, I forgot, I have my script right here because I have a lot of bullet points. But another thing that I want to say, which relates closely to OpenClaw and cloud setups and all of that, and why your agent skills don't work the way you want it, is because of this. Because the only way a skill works in your OpenClaw or cloud setup or any agentic framework is because that's your reasoning. That's your own reasoning. That's basically how you do something and how you encode it in plain, clear, no ambiguous language for the machine to do it. So the skill, like, have you seen all of these GitHub repos and all of that for skills that then you just download it and doesn't work for you? Because of that. Because it's basically, if you can do it with your own hands, then you cannot create the skill, because there's too much ambiguity. And that is the problem because of that, because you're not taking the time to understand how to do this. So how do you differentiate yourself? Well, there's a rule in human psychology. There should be a specific term for that, but we just tend to look for the path of less resistance, of less effort. And this is true. So if you want to differentiate yourself, then it's not about working hard and harder than anybody else, but it's about to do the things that most people are not willing to do, because that's what separates the outcome. Okay, doing it smartly, but at the same time doing the hard work. So this is the thing. Learning is painful. Learning is a neurological process that we all have to implement, and AI is just an over abstraction of avoiding that thing, of avoiding learning. So don't do that. Go and learn. It takes time, yeah, but the minute you understand everything, your prompts, your instructions, everything improves. So this is the flow, and I've seen a lot of people that are just following in this trap. You just keep following and keep building, but the minute you ask him how does it work, or I don't know, just do it with your own mind, in your hands, then they can't do it. You don't want to be in that position, okay? So that's a good framework. So if you didn't know about OpenClaw and skills and Cloud, I truly recommend it to read it. I think Cloud, I'll see if I can link it down below, which is a resource that Anthropic has about skills and agents and all of that, and I think it's very useful, because in the future I'm planning to documenting how I'm managing this OpenClaw setup, which I think is very valuable. But more than the OpenClaw is the overall context, right? Is why is it important to have something like that running locally? And so that's why I don't relate to people with the cloud setup, because you're locked in with Anthropic. But running this locally and how to make it work, because it's not as easy. I started with my Raspberry Pi, it's right here, and there are a lot of tweaks and all of that, but I made it work. So I made a decision to buy a specific, more powerful CPU, not the mini Mac thing stuff, like everybody went crazy, not that shit. but I bought another one because I want to test more stuff, give it more freedom, give it more capabilities over time. But that's a topic for another video, so I'm planning to produce more content on this. So the key takeaway, don't fry your brain. Like, just put the time to learning and building at the same time. It's possible. It requires more energy, but that's what it is. Okay, so I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for your time.